retirement is not an age. A lot of people think retirement is an age. Hey, I'm going to retire at 60 or 65. No, retirement is a number, and you need to understand what that number is. And then you can reverse engineer and build your portfolio towards that number. So the number one thing I tell people to do is figure out how much do you spend every single year, and then you can start investing towards that entire financial freedom number.
So good morning, and great morning, guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategy Radio Show. Hey, I'm your host, Corwyn J, Melette, the broker and owner of Exit Realty, Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Hey, if this is your first time listening to this show, you, sir, or ma'am, are in for a treat because our mission here is very simple, and that is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education, guys. We're legacy building. That is what we do. So I'm super excited for today's show. Always got to give a shout out to those who listen to us faithfully from Moncks Corner, because my mama live out there, y'all, all the way down to Hollywood, what you know, no good. Vanderbilt Evans Sr., Pastor Vanderbilt Evans Sr. and his wonderful bride, Miss Sandra Evans. Got to give them a shout out. They tune in faithfully. They talk to people in the streets about us. Look here, we love you, we love you, we love you. Look here, McKellers. Hey, love you. Hey, also got to give a shout out to the LeQ family. You guys rock. You guys are doing some amazing things. Keep going on. My folks in Mullins. Look here, love you. And those who tune in from wherever you are, guys, we love you too. So today we're talking building real estate wealth the right way, financial foundations, risk strategy, and long-term freedom. Look here, that word freedom. Woo! So sweet. So look, good deals don't always create good outcomes. That's just being real, very fair. Sometimes the difference between progress and pressure comes down to financial preparation. So our guest today is none other than Andrew Giancola. Now, he told me to say Giancola, but he's an experienced real estate investor and entrepreneur who has personally bought and sold dozens of properties across residential, commercial, leases, and also non-traditional deal structures. He's the dude. During a 2-year period as a full-time investor, Andrew built and operated a portfolio as a sweat equity partner while working alongside cash partners who funded deals. So he later obtained his real estate license to better source, evaluate, and execute investments for his own portfolio and to support family and friends navigating property decisions. So through this journey, which is included buying and selling businesses as well, look here, I love it. The guy is around the corner. He's well-rounded. Andrew recognized a common pattern. Many investors don't struggle because of poor deals, but because they lack a structured financial framework to manage leverage, risk, and long-term growth. So in our conversation today, Andrew, we're going to be talking about, look here, his signature financial freedom stack, a practical order of operations approach designed to help listeners build financial stability and make intentional investment decisions and move closer to what we all desire, which is sustainable wealth. So Andrew, thank you so much, guy, for taking time out and being on the show with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Corwyn. I am so excited to be here.
Look here, I took the peanut butter out and I kind of did this thing right here and I made it thick. So I want you to put that jelly on it so we put this sandwich together the right way, my man. And I want you to tell our listeners who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So I am Andrew Giancola. I'm the host of the Personal Finance Podcast. And really, my entire goal is to teach people how to build wealth. My entire purpose is to teach people financial freedom and how they can achieve that financial freedom. Whether you're doing it through real estate investing, buying businesses, investing in the market, all those different areas, this is going to be the place where I truly believe that anybody in this world can become a millionaire. And our initial goal, when we started out with this journey of becoming a financial educator and teaching people how to build wealth, my goal was to create 1 million millionaires. And that's exactly what we try to do, is we want to serve other people so that they too can build wealth going forward.
Man, I'm loving it. 1 million millionaires. Oh, that's 1 million squared right there. Let's talk about it. So why do financial foundations matter more than deal? So look, right here, before investors focus on scaling portfolios and chasing opportunities, they need to evaluate strength on their personal financial structure. So Andrew, common reasons that real estate investors experience setbacks. Let's go.
There are so many different reasons why a lot of real estate investors that I see out there are really going to get themselves into trouble. And we call them financial traps. And there's traps that people can fall into if you are not very careful. And the first thing, and one of the biggest things that a lot of real estate investors fall into is not understanding what their freedom number is, not understanding the ultimate goal that they are trying to achieve. For a lot of people out there, what they don't do is they don't look at, okay, I need to know what my retirement number is. That means how much I spend every single year or how much spend every single month. If you don't know that number, then how are you really going to pursue exactly what you're trying to go for and make sure that you actually accomplish your goal? So one big thing is understanding what that freedom number is. Because guess what? Retirement is not an age. A lot of people think retirement is an age. Hey, I'm going to retire at 60 or 65. No, retirement is a number, and you need to understand what that number is. And then you can reverse engineer and build your portfolio towards that number. So the number one thing I tell people to do is figure out how much do you spend every single year, and then you can start investing towards that entire financial freedom number. But if you don't have that North Star, if you don't have that goal in place, you are never going to be actually chasing after what you need to do. And here's a big thing that I think I see a lot of people do is a lot of people will go out there and they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and your goalpost is going to move. When I was a single guy, I would spend a lot less money than when I got married. And when I got married, I'd spend a lot less money than when I had my 3 kids. And so this is something where the goalpost is always moving. So I think you need to track your financial freedom number on a yearly basis. And I think this is the most important thing. Then you can start to reverse engineer and build some financial strength around this.
Look, your freedom number, that right there, one for our listeners, guys, put a pin right there. You guys have to, that's a term that we got to carry forward. Andrew, look, what's your freedom number? So touch on how emotional decision-making kind of jams people up, or do you believe that it jams people up?
Andrew just shared a powerful point. Wealth building starts long before the investment. That's why financial strategy matters. At Melette Capital, we're committed to helping individuals and families position themselves for long-term opportunities through intentional planning and smart financial decisions. Learn more about Melette Capital today.
You found the perfect property. You got the vision. Now you need the capital. At Melette Capital, we specialize in funding real estate deals for investors who want to build, blip, or hold and don't have the time to chase after banks. Whether it's new construction, a fix and flip, or long-term rental, we offer simple terms, fast approvals, and access to private capital. We even work with manufactured housing projects because we know what it takes to build value from the ground up. Simple. You bring the deal, we bring the money. Visit melefundcapital.com or call 843-619-7038 to get pre-qualified today. Melette Capital, we fund what you build.
100%. So a lot of people out there, when they're thinking about their finances, they get emotional about their finances. Your emotions are going to be a huge portion of what happens when you invest. It's going to be a huge portion to adding to your stress and anxiety when you're thinking about money. It's going to be a huge portion to just how you think about this. Your psychology is almost everything when it comes to money. In fact, I believe your psychology is about 90% and only 10% is your know-how or what you know what to do. And so how many times have you seen a deal come across your table, for example, and you want to invest in that rental property? You're like, man, this is an amazing area, but the price is a little too high. The numbers are kind of outside of the realm of what I would actually invest in. Well, when that happens and you actually take action on that and you invest in that property, even though it's outside of the realm of your comfort zone or what you want to be doing, a lot of times you can make mistakes doing that. Your emotions are getting in the way of you actually making sound, logical decisions. And so for a lot of folks out there, we need to understand why we have those emotions. We need to understand and control those emotions so that we can become someone who is building wealth over time. And so this is a very, very important thing that I think a lot of people out there do is they just need to understand how this happens. How do we make this work? How do we make sure that we control those emotions? We have a financial education. If we focus on our financial education, then you know, hey, when the market dips, this is not a stressful time. This is something that is very normal over time. And instead, I'm going to buy low and sell high. That's how I'm going to think about it. And a lot of people say buy low and sell high until it's time to do some buy low and sell high stuff. Whereas if you could just get this ball rolling, you can build a tremendous amount of wealth by controlling those emotions.
We know that, well, matter of fact, let's hit probably maybe one more point here. Andrew, touch on insufficient liquidity, emergency reserves. Where you've had these experiences, you have been through some things, if you will. You have weathered the storm. For our listeners,
Yep.
let's touch that. What would you advise? What do you say that structure should look like? Let's go.
So here's what most real estate investors do is a lot of them, I think, need to think through exactly how much cash you have on hand. Cash is your protection for your finances. Cash allows you to build wealth outside of all this different stuff. And so what you need to do is you need to have an emergency fund in place. So we have something called the 136 method where we talk about how to build your emergency fund. And it means, hey, stage one, let's get 1 month of expenses in place. Once you have 1 month of expenses in place, that is going to cover you, if something happens to you, for example, your car breaks down or you have a water heater break in your house or your kids get sick and you have to go to the emergency room, that 1 month of expenses is just going to short term be the starter emergency fund to protect you against life. And life is going to happen, as we all know. And it feels as though anytime anything happens in life, when it rains, it pours, it feels like all these expenses go out at the same time. And so having 1 month of expenses at least protects you as you're working on all these other wealth building activities. Because once you have that 1 month in place, then we need to look at our debt, our personal debt when it comes to our personal finances. So looking at something like high interest debt, which we classify any debt above a 6% interest rate as high interest debt. And so this can be things like credit card loans, or this could be things like personal loans that's above a 6% interest rate. Or maybe some of you out there have car loans that are 7, 8, 9%. All of these need to get paid down first before we move on to the next phase. Why? Because debt is a wealth killer, especially high interest debt. Now, if it's low interest debt, below that 6% interest rate, a lot of times we'd rather invest those dollars into the market or at an average rate of return of 10%, or invest it into rental properties if we can get a cap rate of 8 to 10%, because we are much better off with that. But high interest debt, credit card debt, personal loans, all those different things need to go next. Once you have those paid off, then we want to move towards getting to the 3 in the 136 method, which is the 3 months of cash on hand. This is going to protect you against most things in life, but it's not enough. Ultimately, we want to get to 6 months, but really having this emergency fund in place and having cash on hand will protect you in life. Now, a lot of real estate investors out there, they're going to come back and say, hey, I want to get this cash working. I want to make sure I can get these dollars investing instead of putting it in an emergency fund into something like a high yield savings account. But let me push back on you on that, because the big thing here is this protecting your wealth building. This is allowing you to wealth build, because if you make a mistake, or if you start to fall backwards, you have this cash to fall back on, so that going forward, this is your moat against anything that happens to you in life. And so then after that, then you can start to really focus on building wealth.
Wow. So look, what I just heard you say, successful investing, being successful in this arena is not just about the acquisition. It's also about sustainability. That's what I just heard you say, Andrew. So tell our listeners that's what it is, because here's where I am with it. I'm sorry. Where I am with it, Andrew, is that they got to be prepared for the what after. Not the what if, but the what after. Is that a fair assessment?
That's 100% exactly right. And the big thing as real estate investors is we know this is a long-term game. If you're playing this as a short-term game, this is going to be one of those things where you're going to get some quick cash, maybe you'll move on. But if you want to play this as a long-term wealth-building strategy, you need longevity. And the only way to have longevity is to make sure you're protecting your personal finances. Otherwise, you could get yourself in a really bad situation. Folks who do not have cash on hand are the folks who are always ending up living paycheck to paycheck or going backwards. How many of you out there have felt like, okay, well, my car broke down and then something else in my house broke and then my kids got sick and then I had to go do this, this, and this, and it all happened at once. I had this happen to me recently where I had to spend $10,000 in one single month out of pocket for 3 different emergencies. And when that happened, I didn't stress at all. I wasn't anxious about it at all because the cash was just there. And there's power in having the cash there, because that's going to reduce your stress and anxiety, and the emotions that we're talking about, those get removed because you don't have to worry. You have cash there. You planned for this. You prepared for this. You know this is going to happen. And so instead, moving forward, you can play the long game.
So let's make this shift into why you need to be intentional. So, touching on, because what we haven't talked about yet, we talked about having reserves in this emergency and this thing and this thing. But let's talk about the war chest, but also being prepared for your vacancies and repairs and other shifts, if you will, in revenue that your investments are bringing in.
Absolutely. So one big thing that we want to do next is, once we have this in place, obviously is building up our war chest and kind of looking at our war chest in a way that we can start to invest our dollars. So this is thinking through like our down payments or things that we are going to utilize to invest in properties. And while you're building this up, a lot of you may be like, well, this is a ton of cash. How am I going to spend all of this time building up this war chest and I'm not really investing my dollars? And so during that time frame, this is a wonderful time to still get started investing in real estate. One of the things that I would say to do is if you are building up your war chest and maybe you're new to real estate investing, you're listening to this right now and you haven't got started yet. You had analysis paralysis. You're listening to a lot of different things where you're reading a lot of different books and you feel like you just need to get started. I would highly recommend finding a partner who is someone who can be the cash partner and you be the sweat equity partner and you go out and start investing in real estate, because the number one education, as you know, Corwyn, is to actually get out there and get started doing some of this stuff. And when you are doing it, you can run the numbers, evaluate the properties. And this is the biggest thing overall is most people do this wrong. If you run the numbers wrong when it comes to your rental properties, you make all your money when you buy the property. And so if you run those numbers wrong, or you don't know or factor in some of the costs that are going to come up, then it's very, very likely that you will be putting yourself at risk. And so what I want most people to do is understand, hey, we need to run the numbers and understand it is not your mortgage minus your expenses and all those different things minus your rent is not what your cash flow is. Your cash flow is you got to factor in things like vacancies. For a lot of folks out there, your property, when a tenant leaves, is going to be vacant for at least a month at a time, if not even longer, if you want to put some more cushion in there. Also, you want to make sure that you're looking at things like capital expenditures, just like you alluded to. So making sure, if the roof goes bad or if the air conditioner goes bad. I'm in Florida, air conditioners go bad all the time. Or if the water heater goes out, you have expenses set aside so that you can take care of those types of things. We want to take care of just regular old repairs. The sink's going to have an issue or there's going to be a leaky faucet. All that stuff needs to make sure that's factored in addition to all the other expenses that we have in play, like insurance and all those other areas. And so we need to make sure that we're factoring in those expenses and planning for them intentionally. And so you have to build out some sort of way for you to run and evaluate these numbers so that you can hit the numbers that are actually going to make sense for your investing criteria.
Now, do you advise the people that you advise on this? I'm conservative. I'll slightly overestimate the expense, slightly underestimate revenue intentionally to make sure that it works. So do you advise that type of practice?
I 100% do. And in fact, I do this to a fault. I'm just like you, Corwyn, where a lot of times I am over analyzing a lot of these expenses, but it's because I'm building in cushion. And let me give you a great example of this. So there's a property that I personally bought where when I ran the numbers, I was very conservative on this. And I passed up a bunch of different properties that I probably should have bought because I'm so conservative. But here's a great example, because when I bought this property, it had tenants already in there. And this was a landlord out there who was someone that seemed as though they just didn't know what they were doing. So I ran the numbers. It became a very good deal for me. And so I was like, man, this thing's going to cash flow fantastic. It's just a small duplex in the middle of the city. And so when I bought this property, I was like, okay, we got the property, we acquired it. The tenants are already in there. Well, the first month comes around and one of the tenants already isn't paying. The other one paid their rent, but they were having some issues in the property. So very quickly I realized, oh shoot, there are some issues inside the property where we did inspections, we did everything, but there were some plumbing issues in this property because one of the tenants was flushing a toilet and the toilet was like overflowing and leaking. We're trying to figure out what the problem is. So there's some issues there. The other side, the tenant wasn't paying when we had some conversations with them before we got the property and there were some issues there. And I realized pretty quickly, okay, well, the tenant that's not paying, we have to go through the process of an eviction, which is like one of the worst things you can do as a landlord is having to go through this process, but we had to go through because they were not paying their rent. And so we went through the process of doing this, opened the door after the tenant left when we were going through the eviction process. They left 15 different fish tanks, cats, dogs, and everything. They had left tons of different pets inside of this property. And so we had to get all of this stuff out, clean out the property. And then we had issues on the other side where then that tenant stopped paying as well. And all of a sudden, all of these things, when it rains, it pours. All of these things were happening at once. When we ended up selling that property, we still made over $50,000 on that property because we ran the numbers correctly, even though it wasn't the right property for us. And I count this as my biggest mistake I've ever made. We still made $50,000 on the biggest mistake we ever made because we ran the numbers conservatively. And I think it's very, very important to do so, only because you don't know what's going to happen and you got to give yourself a little cushion. Anything could go wrong in these situations. And so I like to give myself extra cushion just so it doesn't go in the wrong direction.
I love that. I love that, Andrew. So you're big also on balancing your exposure, if you will, in real estate with diversified alternatives, right?
100%. And I think for a lot of real estate investors, they have their eye on the prize in terms of, hey, I'm going to get the next property over and over and over again. But we're really big on diversifying into other things like even the market and or businesses and those types of things.
Okay. So that gives people a little bit more cushion balance. Typically, if you're going to have an issue in one particular arena or industry, sometimes it doesn't carry over into others. Is that kind of what the strategy is there?
Exactly. And one of the big things that you can do is, for example, if you want to invest in the stock market, you can look at things like retirement accounts out there. And a lot of people are like, well, if I invest in a retirement account, my money's going to get locked up in there until I'm of retirement age. But there are things that real estate investors can do. Things like investing in a Roth IRA, for example. So you're going to pay taxes now. The money is going to grow tax-free, and you can pull the money out tax-free after the age of 59 and a half. But the cool thing about the Roth IRA for real estate investors is you can transfer that over into a self-directed IRA and invest in real estate. If you're like, this is not for me, I am not a market investor, I want to get back into real estate, you can turn that into a self-directed IRA, and there's a lot of tax benefits surrounding that. Or if you wanted to go to a taxable brokerage account, grow that money over time, where you have a completely passive way to invest your dollars, meaning just the regular old brokerage account that you can open anywhere like Fidelity, Vanguard, wherever else. And we invest in things like index funds and ETFs. Over the course of the last 100 years, the S&P 500 has returned around 10% to investors. And so that is something where we invest in that over the long run to diversify the way that we invest. In addition to buying businesses and other things like that, these are just ways that you can diversify the way you build wealth, because overall, having some other options can be a really, really powerful tool.
Love it. I want to kind of fold in. And when I was thinking to say that, I was thinking about as you're baking, sometimes you got to fold something into the mixture that you got, which is, let's talk about switching this up, expanding this into syndications, private lending, and then also other types of, if you will, passive deals. If you don't mind, Andrew, start by giving an explanation of some of that for our listeners that may not be up to date on that lingo. And then let's talk about that.
Absolutely. So as you start to progress on your wealth building journey, and let's say you start to invest in some real estate, you're like, man, I'm doing great here. My income is increasing. I don't want to continue to keep investing in properties because I'm already hitting my freedom number. I'm hitting my retirement number, but I got extra cash on hand coming in. That is where we like to look at things like advanced strategies. So you could do things like real estate syndications, where you and a bunch of other investors are pooling money together into someone who is a capital allocator or somebody who is allocating capital towards different properties. Maybe they're bigger projects. I have a friend who does this across the country, where he does this with storage units. So he has over $200 million worth of storage units that he's doing this with. And there are people like you've seen, maybe Grant Cardone or someone like that, who does these syndications where they put dollars together and they buy these huge apartment buildings. And these are ways for investors to passively invest in real estate, meaning that you have a lot less control. And a lot of times your money gets locked up for longer periods of time, maybe 5-10 years. But at the same time, you can invest those dollars and not have to worry about tenants and toilets and phone calls in the middle of the night and those types of things. And obviously, you can get a property manager to handle that stuff. But this is a way for you to passively invest your dollars and still get a rate of return. So for my real estate investors out there, as they start to build some wealth, these are some of the areas that I say you can graduate to. I think if you do it too early and too often, you're not going to get the return for your financial freedom that you really, really want. Instead, you want to make some active income first. You want to grow that cash flow. You want to grow your overall portfolio, then taking some of those extra dollars. And if you want to continue investing in real estate, this is the advanced strategy that you can go to for longer term wealth building. And I think it's a great way to think about this if you want some passive income. There's things like notes as well. You can go into real estate notes, for example, where you're the lender and you're lending out to other real estate investors. You get a higher interest rate. Maybe you do it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You just have to realize the risk level goes up with some of these. And so you want to make sure that first you build that base, you build that active income, then you move on to passive income. I think there's a lot of people out there who think, hey, I'm going to go get this passive income. I'm going to chase after it. But it's really hard to get until you build that active income and grow that active income over time. So that's your rental properties. That's your other investments. I think that's the really big key.
So you also have and have spoken on managing low interest debt. We talked about, or you touched on high interest, anything over 6, but managing low interest debt is a strategy to continue investing in whatever it is you decide to invest in.
Absolutely. And I think this is an area where a lot of people, as time goes on, maybe you get to a point in time, and I know as I get older, low interest debt starts to bother me a little bit. It's like one of those lingering things. I'm like, hey, I got all this extra thing. Maybe I don't want a car note anymore, or I don't want to have all this extra debt on hand, even though it's below that 6% interest rate. I just want to get rid of it, and I want to move on and just move on to a debt-free life because that's a freeing feeling. If you're someone like that, and again, this is not required, but if you are someone like that, then I think it's a really powerful tool, because once you get rid of some of this debt, it removes stress in your life. It removes anxiety in your life. You're not waking up every single day. The borrower is a slave to the lender. You're not waking up every single day having to drive to work through traffic, go to work, drive all the way home through traffic just to go and pay someone else. So instead, if you get rid of all these debt payments, then if you're completely debt free, you can take those extra dollars and put even more money towards wealth building or towards your rental properties or whatever else you're interested in investing in. And it can really accelerate that path. And I think as you approach retirement age or as you approach your freedom time, it is really wise for people to really not have to carry a mortgage into that time frame or have to carry some of this other debt into that time frame, because then you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about any of that other stuff. Now, one caveat I'd give you, like for example, my mortgage right now, I'm not paying off anytime soon. I built a house in 2020. That's a 2.5% interest rate. But as time goes on, if that thing starts to bother me, I would even pay it down, even though it's not the optimal decision to make. Overall, it's just a freeing feeling when it comes to thinking about your money and building wealth. If you feel as though you're going to feel much, much better with that, that's what money is there for. Money is a tool to get what you want out of life. It is a tool to help you buy back your freedom, and using it as a tool is the number one thing you need to do.
So the financial freedom stack. So that is a concept that you help others with, that you talk about and you teach.
It is. So it is a step-by-step order that we talk through for a lot of folks, and it helps real estate investors specifically when they are looking to build wealth. Because what I saw, and I spoke to so many different real estate investors across the board that were really struggling, especially with their financial foundation. And so this is a framework that allows you to build wealth, build your financial foundation, protect yourself against life when that happens, and then be able to accelerate your path to financial freedom as time goes on. And that was our entire goal. And that is why we built this out for real estate investors, because it is one of those areas that I think is really, really helpful just to think about your personal finances and how it all meshes together with your real estate investing.
So, Andrew, this is a good time. Where can people find you? On podcasts to talk about it, where they can find you, contact information, because we want to get people connected to you, because this is good stuff, man. You got me over here giddy today. Let's go.
Absolutely. So I'm the host of the Personal Finance Podcast. We would love to, any podcast player that you listen to, we would love to have you, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all those different places. We teach all things personal finance, wealth building, increasing your income, all those different things. In addition, we have mastermoney.co, which is where we have a lot of these frameworks. If you want this financial freedom stack, you can go to mastermoney.co/resources, and we have a free resource right there for you where you can download this and kind of read through a free guide on exactly how this works. And then again, we have Master Money Academy, which is where we teach people all of this kind of stuff. And we help people step by step through all these processes. So you can go to joinmastermoneyacademy.com, and that's exactly where you can find me there as well. And then I'm on all the social medias at Master Money Co.
I love it. I love it. Dude, I'm on the site, man. I'm over here giddy and geeked. I love it. So look, Andrew, we're very big on legacy here. I mean, very, very big on that. So my question for you today, to kind of wrap this in as we get towards closing out the show, is many people see real estate as a pathway to financial freedom. How does building a strong foundation through liquidity planning, disciplined investing, and intentional risk management help individuals and families create wealth that not only supports their lifestyle today, but also provides that stability and opportunity for future generations?
Absolutely. And I think this is one of the most powerful questions that you can ask over time. Proverbs said that, a wise man builds an inheritance for his children's children. And I think this is one of those areas where a lot of people need to think through, hey, what is my legacy going to be when I'm building all of this wealth? Real estate investors have one of the most powerful methodologies, which is real estate. Because guess what? AI is not going to be taking away places for people to live. It's not one of those things that's going to be going away anytime soon. And so when you are a realtor, you are building this generational wealth that can, A, be something that you can hand down for generation to generation. In fact, we have looked at this a number of different times and said, hey, I want someone who listens to our stuff to say to themselves, I am going to pull myself out of a situation where my family has never built wealth in their entire life. And I'm going to be the first person in my family to build generational wealth. That was my entire goal. And so once people realize that this is a step-by-step process, you can absolutely do this. You can change your family's financial life. That is one of the most powerful things that you can ever do. So imagine if you can help your family for generations to come, but in addition, also give back to causes you believe in. One of the best things that you can do with your wealth is give to causes you truly believe in. If you are feeling as though, hey, there's something in this world that just does not sit right with me, money is the most powerful tool you can utilize to help with that cause. And I think this is one of those areas that as you build generational wealth, you can change your family's life. You can change the entire world if you wanted to. And I think this is one of those things that really can help you, especially as real estate investors. We have cash flow coming in. You could pass these properties down, and there's just so many cool ways to do this.
Awesome. So Andrew, I want to thank you my guy, for being on the show today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to do it. Now, for our listeners, guys, let me give you this. These are your takeaways. Strengthen your personal financial foundation before aggressively scaling real estate investments. Build reserves and liquidity to manage your risks, such as vacancy repairs and those shifts that inevitably happen in the market. And align every investment decision with a clear, long-term, this is long ball, guys, financial freedom strategy. So in real estate, lasting wealth is not created by the number of deals you close. It is built by the financial discipline and intentional planning that supports every decision along the way. Guys, take that. Let's run with it. Look, we're closing up. Y'all know how I feel. You know what I say. I always give it to you this way, which is to tell you that I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.